This is Calcat, the Calcatster, and this is a review of Star Trek Discovery Episode 4, Forget Me Not. In this episode we have, we're introduced to the Trill homeworld of the 32nd century. And Tall, I guess is her name? Tall, yeah. The new character who's basically a humanoid version of Abra the cat. No. But yeah. But yeah. Not really. Yeah, they're not ripping it. But they are borrowing liberally from Ezri Dax. I don't think she's a Dax though. She's supposed to be. Yeah. So I forget. It's also a Thanksgiving episode, kind of, even though this is like, it's not really, there's a Thanksgiving dinner story arc, which is right out of the fictional adventures, or Silly in Space, of course, and one of them talks about blood pouring out on Stamets' blood during the haiku scene. Why are they even doing haikus? It's weird. They didn't do them right, incidentally. But yeah, there's this the spear data computer thing. You would think, but then it starts messing with the crew because they're like having emotional distress. It's clearly supposed to be some sort of a reboot here, because they wouldn't have even addressed that in the other two seasons. They also have them going to Trill, which has outlawed other visitors coming there, but she's a human joined with a Trill, which wasn't up until this point possible. So she's sort of a messianic figure in the story, including the lying down like prone, like with the arms outstretched in the Trill pool. Yeah. 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 Also, they set up, well, we already knew ahead of time, but they also set up the idea that the boyfriend is actually a girl who has been transgendered into a dude, and that she is actually in her past memory. The story arc is that they were lovers, and that she was a boy at that point. But so yeah, and that they transferred over during a space accident on the Generation ship, the Trill boy, who was a girl, gave her his because he's transferred into a boy, to the human girlfriend, or could be boyfriend. She could have switched too. Using the Trill as the reflection of transgenderism is the obvious choice, but maybe not the choice they should have made, just because they kind of did that already on Deep Space Nine. This is sort of like a thing on Deep Space, and they didn't do it right on Deep Space Nine. Yeah, this is sort of we're gonna fix that episode of Deep Space Nine and have it be like, oh, she's not an abomination. She's really, it's all a reflection of her being a trans person, the other person being a trans person. Well, technically, if she was a woman, the boyfriend, then she was technically a lesbian. But so what? Anyway, it's 2020. Yeah, so I could see how well, there's a lot less of that silly anti-SJW backlash stuff. A lot less of that. A lot less of the toxic masculinity stuff. What's left of it freaked out when they were going to put these two characters on Voyager, young people on Voyager that are on Discovery that are trans. So it's also curiously similar to the gender fluid April Fool's joke years ago, before Discovery started, about the having the captain be both a man and a woman, which I borrowed from Starcrackers, and that the most macho Zuri bad guy character in the universe, was discovered to be actually a transsexual. When they discovered him on the planet, and that changed Zuri society forever. In that final episode of Book 2 of Space Vanguards, but it used to be called Starcrackers. There's 3 books. Yeah, so they did that there. She looks more like a humanoid version of the cat Abra, but not really. A little bit like Ezri Dax, but I don't think she is supposed to be a descendant. She would be a human, no, not a descendant. Yeah, I wonder when the Admiral thing happened then. If she knew who the like, she seems to imply that she didn't know the memories of the other Trill hosts, yet she knew the Admiral's voice enough to send out the message. So clearly she knew who he was before he transferred his Trill host to the girl who became a boy. This is confusing. Who became the boyfriend. So this happened on the Generation ship, apparently. You would think that they would have records of that, even in space, and they would be like, oh, okay, she came from there, and that Admiral was flying that ship, and that's where she comes from. Here's all the data on that. I think they would have left that with her when they put her on the Discovery. It's supposed to be the distant future, and they're supposed to have communication to an extent. It wasn't so much a Cillian episode, though, so we won't go into whether, it's similar to Cillian. It wasn't so much that. Actually, the character looks similar to, as of yet, unpublished Distant Destinies characters, and, they couldn't have known about them because they're not in print yet. No, Tal. Anyway, Tal is actually not very tall. So the Bajorans, not Bajorans, the Trill on the planet, probably even saying Bajorans, I meant Trill. The Trill on the planet had, because of the planet Trill, and Berman and the Tal go down into the, they have named Tal, go down into the, because they go down and they get harassed by some of them, but the other ones offer to help. Uses a pool of remembrance. They go in there. It's kind of like the Q Continuum, but like Avatar, the Avatar movie with the same idea. That too, and they cross with Avatar, and a little bit of Akira. Actually, Avatar is borrowing from Akira and Pocahontas. So the same idea. In Eve, numerous video games. We have Admiral's uniform that looks vaguely like a Stalinist uniform from the Russian period, from the dynastic period, ending with World War II. That's kind of interesting. It's Stalin. I don't know if they want to have a uniform that looks kind of like that. That's a little weird. I don't think they realized it, but yeah, I put the red chevron things up here and have it be gray and have like the red chevrons. Stalin. So Russian Stalin. That's probably freaking some of them out too, but yes, a little more color here to throw it off, so it would have helped. Yeah, a little more other crimson, other colors around it. Sort of look more like a band suit instead of because they're in the future. Just look gritty, but yeah, I don't think they were intentionally doing that. But they were definitely intentionally setting up these young people as well. The symbiote has the memories of the boyfriend who was a girl. So we have this going on. That's pretty obvious to begin with because he's very feminine looking boy. He's clearly not a boy. Was a girl. They got her as the actress, the other actress, as a very well, she's not androgynous. She's feminine looking. But yeah, he looks a little androgynous, but he looks like a girl. So and that's okay. It's 2020. So the idea was that they are but star-crossed couple. But somebody's been watching those books, those lovey-dovey romance books for young adults. and kids. The dude was called Gray. That guy. That's not for kids though. Christian Grey is not for. That's yeah, not stuff like Fault in Your Stars, basically. Because Fault in Our Stars was liberally ripped off for that backstory of the episode. The guy dying at the end. But yeah, spoilers. But he didn't die because his spirit lives on in the symbiote. So it's like the duality of the humans being a shell for the symbiote and gender not meaning anything. An interesting twist, easy twist. They should have just like had someone be transgendered on the ship. That would have been more edgy than, oh, let's just find an established Star Trek race that's kind of already there. Just use them. It was like that's not interesting enough. I think they could have done better, or introduced a new race that does it better. But I guess they figured, well, we do Trill. Okay, fine. Anyway, so yeah, that would be the only objection really. Character actors are fine. They're although they can't be involved in adult situations really because they're supposed to be teenagers. And she's supposed to be like a sympathetic version of Wesley. So, but we already have one. We have Tilly, who's already that. So, so yeah, I don't think she's directly related to Dax. She might be indirectly. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think they would have done that. It's 1,000 years later. Well, it would be 900 some years later, 930 years later after the other story, but it would be only 700 years after TNG. About 800 years. So yeah, yeah. If it's 31 something, 3189. Currently, it's 2397 in the original TNG timeline, but in Picard, it's 2399, approaching 2400. So it's a little later in the other timeline. It's mucking the whole thing up, as you can find out in Phantoma vs. Picard. So, on Amazon. So, no, not too many transgenders directly referenced in there. Yeah, so, yeah, it was fine. The episode was okay. Yeah, I saw nothing wrong with what was going on in it. They'll say, "Oh, you're from San Francisco Bay Area. Of course you'll say that." It's like, yeah. So, whatever. But yeah, sure. They can, yeah, just. Eh. They already have Culber and Stamets, and they're a couple. And clearly the pilot lady has got some psychological damage. She freaks out about like saying inappropriate things at Thanksgiving. That probably isn't accurate, but they do address that in the story. They basically say like she's flipping out. I would think that would be grounds to put her in the, and then they in the brig for a night to cool off. But we have them watching a slapstick movie that the Sphere Data gave them at the end. An old slapstick movie on a holovid. I don't know how they turned it into a hologram, but thing for them to watch, or why they would laugh at it, except it, I mean, yeah, it is a classic movie, but I wouldn't think millennials would even get, that's, I mean, the older dude, the captain would. He would do that. And then the spirit thing is helping the ship. You think they would wonder about that, too, with the spirit thing helping the ship. So is Control trying to take over the lady with the Borg eye thing? Or is not, maybe? Why don't they just, like... Yeah, there's some odd things, some odd stylistic choices. There's some odd stylistic choices, and that's pretty much the review of it so far. It's obvious they're going to set up the gender swap thing, but I knew about that earlier, so yeah. Yeah, and they really make it obvious because they're kind of androgynous to feminine looking. Yeah. Now, if they really wanted to go hit it home there, they would have said, this isn't my boyfriend that I'm seeing this fantasy of, it's my girlfriend. But that would be like, oh. But no, yeah. But then he became a boy. It wanted to just go there. It's 2020. It's almost 2021. But yeah, they didn't reveal that later, I guess. Some selective memories return. Well, very, very much a fanfic type of story with a fanfic type of character. Yeah, the shipping people should love this episode. Anyway.